Anyway, I'm Professional Guy here with the intro of the video that I forgot to do. Now we're gonna talk about a topic that was kind of not really near and dear to my heart, but a very interesting one that is pretty easy to start and pretty easy to end. So what I'm gonna do is talk about the Macau Chinese handover. Now, what you must know before we get into this, brace yourself. Portugal, yes, Portugal had a colonial empire and was pretty much the first people in everywhere, even Africa. They at one point they actually claim all of Africa as theirs, but I digress. This was like in the 1880s. So by that point, Portugal was like Spain. Portugal only had like Brazil. So anyway, serious note. Macau was actually one of the first territories even set foot upon by a European power, and that's how they got like the spice trade and the East Indies going. It was 1550, so it was a while. They knew China for a while, and they were doing the Silk Road, but they wanted like a maritime route. Anyway, Macau was a Portuguese possession for over 400 years, just like Angola, Mozambique, and even East Timor. There we go. So Portugal really had a long-standing claim to these places. Now, after the Estado Novo has been taken out of power in Portugal, who is to take up the mantle? Who is to get back Macau? Find out on this exciting episode of I Hope the Knitting Machine Was Not in the Background and the dog barking in the background is not my problem. This is the Macau Chinese Portuguese handover, or the Portuguese handover of Macau to China. There we go. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. I'll see you when the video ends, and filler for the next 10 seconds. Well, we're going to talk about China. Please don't sue me. Macau was settled by Portuguese merchants in 1557 during the Ming Dynasty from 1368 to 1664 CE, and was subsequently under various degrees of Portuguese rule until 1999. Portugal's involvement in the region was formally recognized by the Qing Dynasty in 1749. The Portuguese governor, Jair Maria Ferreira del Amaral, emboldened by the First Opium War and the Treaty of Nanking, attempted to annex the territory of what is now Macau, expelling Qing authorities in 1846, but was assassinated shortly after. After the Second Opium War, the Portuguese government, along with a British representative, signing the 1887 Sino-Portuguese Treaty of Peking, that gave Portugal perpetual colonial rights to Macau, on the condition that Portugal would cooperate in efforts to end the smuggling of opium, which the British would introduce. After the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, and the transfer of China's seat to the PRC in the United Nations in 1971, as it was previously held by the ROC, or the Republic of China, the then Foreign Minister Huang He applied an appeal to the UN Special Committee on Decolonization to remove Macau and Hong Kong from its list of colonies, but preferred bilateral negotiations of ending in return for the territory, rather than the independence of the territory, which was implied by the inclusion on the list of decolonization. Even though these are special cases, but on the 25th of April 1974, a group of left-wing Portuguese officers organized a coup d'etat, overthrowing the right-wing dictatorship of the Estado Novo and de Salaveira, that had been in power for more than 48 years. The new government began to transition Portugal to a democratic liberal system, and was committed to decolonization, first in Africa and Southeast Asia, and now Macau. The government carried out decolonization policies and proposed Macau's handover to China in 1978. The Chinese government rejected this proposal, believing that the early transfer of Macau would actually impact relations with Hong Kong. On the 31st of December 1975, the Portuguese government withdrew its remaining troops from Macau. On the 8th of February 1979, the Portuguese government decided to break off diplomatic relations with the Republic of China, or Taiwan, and establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China the next day. Both Portugal and the People's Republic of China recognized Macau as Chinese territory. The colony remained under Portuguese rule until the 20th of December 1999, when it was transferred to China and became the Macau Special Administrative when it was transferred to China and became the Macau Special Administrative Region in the People's Republic of China. There we go. This marked the end of nearly 600 years of European colonial era and the colonial era in Asia and China. Anyway, big boys, big girls, and NBs, we gotta talk about big boy and girl stuff. So we're gonna talk about the negotiations. That was the history. On the 20th of May 1986, the People's Republic of China, along with Portugal, officially announced that the talks in the Macanese or Macauanese affairs would take place in Beijing on the 30th of June 1986. The Portuguese delegation arrived in Beijing in June and was welcomed by the Chinese delegation led by Zhao Nang. The talks consisted of 4 sessions, all held in Beijing. The first conference was on the 30th of June to the 1st of July 1986. The second conference was from the 9th to the 10th of September 1986. The third conference was the 21st to the 22nd of August 1986. And the fourth conference was convened on the 18th and the 23rd of March 1987. During the negotiations, Portuguese representatives offered to return Macau in 1985, but the Chinese representatives rejected that year as well as rejecting the previous years of 1967, 1975, and 1977. 1967 is kind of odd though, because the Estado Novo was still in power though, so that's pretty interesting. China requested 1997, the same year as Hong Kong, but now Portugal had the ball in their court, and Portugal refused. 2004 was suggested by Portugal as well as 2007, as it would make the year and mark the year of 450 years and the 450th anniversary of Portugal renting Macau. However, China insisted for a year before 2000 as the Sino-British Joint Liaison Group in Hong Kong would be dissolved in 2000 as envisioned in 1986. The Joint Liaison Group would be dissolved in 1999, right? So eventually the year 1999 was agreed upon. On the 13th of April 1987, the Joint Declaration of the Question of Macau by the governments of the People's Republic of China and the Portuguese Republic was formed and formally signed by the Prime Ministers of both governments in Beijing. Transition period 1987 to 1999. Transition period 1987 to 1999. The 12 years between the signing of the Sino-Portuguese Declaration on the 13th of April 1987 and the transfer of sovereignty on the 20th of December 1999 were known as the transition. On the 15th of January 1988, the Chinese Foreign Affairs Department announced that the Chinese members of the group that would begin the talks of the issue of Macau during the transition. On the 15th of January, 4 days before a special day, 1988, the Chinese Foreign Affairs Department announced that the Chinese members of the group that would begin the talks on the issues of Macau during the transition. On the 13th of April, the draft of the Basic Law of the Macau Special Administrative Region Committee was established during the 7th National People's Congress, where the Chinese Communist Party does stuff. And on the 25th of October, the committee convened the first conference, in which they passed the general outline of the draft and the steps, and decided to organize the draft of the Basic Law of the Macau Special Administrative Region Information Committee. There we go, all in one take. On the 31st of March 1993, the National People's Congress passed a resolution of the Basic Law of Macau, which marked the beginning of the latter part of the transition. From transition to transfer. In the afternoon of the 19th of December 1999, the 127th Portuguese governor of Macau, Vasco Joaquim Rocha Vera, lowered the flags of Macau and Portugal for the last time, which was the prelude to the ceremony for the establishment of the Macau Special Administrative Region. The official transfer of sovereignty was held at midnight on that day at the Cultural Center of Macau Garden. The ceremony began in the evening and ended at dawn on the 20th of December. The evening of the 19th of December began with dragon and land dances. These were followed by the slideshows of historical events and features of Macau, which included a mixture of religions and races in the East and the West, and the unique society of native Portuguese born in Macau. The final performance, 442 children, who represented more than 442 years of Portuguese history in Macau, were represented along with the several international stars to perform the song and the closing ceremony, Prayers for Peace. And hopefully all those 442 children got back home before their bedtime. The aftermath and what is happening in Macau to this day. After the transfer of the sovereignty of Macau to China, the Macau Special Administrative Region, the Legislative Assembly, and the Judiciary were all put into practice accordingly under the regulations of the Basic Law. The introduction of the Individual Visit Scheme policy made it easier for Chinese mainlanders and Chinese mainland residents to travel back and forth to Macau, Hong Kong, whatever. On the 25th, in 2005 alone, there were more than 10 million tourists from mainland China, which made up 60% of the total number of tourists in Macau. The income from the gambling houses as well in Macau reached almost $5.6 billion US. On the 15th of July 2005, the Historic Center of Macau was listed as a World Cultural Heritage Site. The increasing development of the tourist became a major factor in the rapid development of the economy of Macau. For Portugal, the transfer of sovereignty to Macau to China marked the end of the Portuguese Empire, and its decolonization process started all the way in 1974, and also the end of the European imperialism in China and Asia, and also the end of a literal millennium. Anyway, just a quick, well, not slideshow, but telling you what has changed since then. But on change after the 20th of December and change after. So firstly, the Portuguese remain an official language per public signs as bilingual Portuguese and traditional Chinese, and even some Macauian Cantonese, which is kind of different. And there's also Mandarin and Portuguese together, which parallels with Cantonese, kind of. So, basically a bilingual language that has Macauian, Mandarin, simplified Chinese, and Portuguese, as well as some Cantonese. The chief executive of Macau became the head of the government, elected by a selection committee with 300 members, who mainly are elected from among professional sectors and business leaders in Macau. The governor was appointed by Portugal, though. The legal system remains separate from that of mainland China broadly based on the Portuguese civil system, with some Portuguese judges actually still continuing to serve to this day. The former government palace is not known as the government headquarters now. No, now known. The former governor's palace is now known as the government's headquarters. Okay. Macau retains the patica as its currency. Patica, right? Which remains the responsibility of the monetary authority of Macau and pegged to the Hong Kong dollar. The court final appeal became the highest court appeal in Macau. This replaced the Superior Court of Justice, established in 1993, and it appealed to the Court to Appeal the Judiciary District of Lisbon, which ceased in 1999. That's interesting. If you know all that mumbo jumbo, you could at me and tell me about it, but The border with the mainland, while now its boundary, continues to be patrolled as before, with separate immigration and custom controls, but still you could able to go. All public offices now fly the flags of the PRC and the Macau Special Administrative Region, or SAR. The flag of Portugal now flies only outside the Portuguese Consulate General. The flag of Portugal now only flies outside the Portuguese Consulate General and other Portuguese premises, with obvious Portuguese, of course, where people, where Portuguese will be, Macau citizens are still required to actually apply for mainland Chinese travel permits in order to visit mainland China. The People's Liberation Army established a garrison in Macau. The first military presence since the Portuguese military garrison had been withdrawn following the Carnation Revolution in 1974. What's next? 6. Citizens of mainland China still do not have the right to abode in Macau, except if he, she, or they was born in Macau before or after the establishment of the SAR, right, Special Administrative Region. Instead, they have to apply for a permit to visit or settle in Macau from the PRC government. But you see, the transfer is complete, but there's like a clause where it's like 20 or 25 years before they actually become integrated in China. And we'll get into this before I finish, but just let me do this weird list of things. Holy crap. I'm gonna link that in the description, but just a few changes. The reason why they don't want to absorb it fully is because they still want some good relations with the West. But like we were saying before, with the tourism especially, basically 60% of the tourism is Chinese mainlanders. So while it's a ploy to actually go on, well, I shouldn't say so, but it's encouraged, but not really a ploy, but it's encouraged by the PRC to make, well, Macau more culturally PRC, not like culturally Chinese, because Macau has been for centuries kind of the strongest stronghold for Chinese, basically as Chinese as possible. Kind of like Hong Kong, but that's controversial. But basically, these are the most ethnically close to Han Chinese people as possible. Sometimes they're even called like River Han's Chinese and stuff, but because they live so close to the water. But that's gonna ruffle a couple of feathers. But Cantonese and Han Chinese are different people, but they do have the same writing system and stuff like that, so that's why I say so. Of course, they've been obviously conquered, well, obviously leased, because officially it's a lease, right? The British Empire would never set on the waves. 100 years, okay. Yeah, so basically, it was a lease. It's technically a lease. It was technically a lease. It wasn't like a conquering. Even though they did put the opium there, it was still a lease, technically, so. Like I was saying, blabbling on. Basically, the Pearl of the Orient, which is Macau, and actually a casino in Macau, is actually where James Bond was filmed, Ready to Die, or the one with the ball beating scene. Yeah. Another cultural fact about Macau is it had a lot of neon lights. It was kind of poor. It wasn't as rich as Hong Kong and how you would see Hong Kong neon lights and stuff. But it was the innovator of Hong Kong lights. But Hong Kong made the lights and Portugal had a lot. But anyway, as for facts aside, I don't know if any of these are true, but I know for sure the casino is based on the Pearl of the Orient or the Lotus Flower. Basically, yeah, that's all I gotta say. That's all I got. Honestly, I honestly didn't want to do it, but just felt like trying to do the one that I tried to do the other day, if you know, would be a bit much. So, here we go. It would be like a bit much. So I was like, let me try something new. Let me flex my muscles. Let me see what's going on, you know? So, oh yeah, the Grand Lupa. Oh yeah, that is the place. Oh, right, there we go. Anyway, yeah, so like I was saying, I hope it sounds a bit more relaxed, a bit more engaging, yet a bit more still soft. I don't want it to be as fast as Philly D, but I don't want it to be as slow and boring. Even though sometimes there's a couple of great topics that a lot of, I don't want to say slow because that has negative connotations, but slow voice people, very deep timbre voices, kind of like mine, but like really deep, like freaking almost in a world, like, you know, like those movie poster kind of things, like in a world where Macau is a part of China. So it's like, my voice is timbre, but it's not that timbre, it's not that freaking deep. Okay, so yes, they do. I was listening to like Analyzing Evil, and he has like a very deep, kind of depressing voice. But you see, his works, because it's like crime and drama and something to be kind of dreary. It's not, you know, you want to pay attention to the history, but it really depends on what you're going for. If I was going for like a depressing suicides in World War I or something like that, I'll be like, and then on the 14th of December, Lafayette had hanged himself on that day. Yeah, so it's like kind of a tonal thing. Because everything can't be super serious. Everything can't be super depressing. Everything can't be so hyper. Because at the end of the day, if we're talking about, and then on the 14th of December, somebody died. So it's not like a freaking World War II propaganda show, you know? So I thank you all for putting up with my stuff. Hopefully it's pretty good. Let me see, 22 minutes. Oh shit. Oh. I guess I'm gonna call it here. Forgot about those facts, but if you want to look up into Macau, I'll link a couple of videos, especially a lot that I seen from Geometry. I think he lives in Hong Kong, so he does a lot of Hong Kong stuff and China stuff, but he is very good at he did the Macau once, so I'll put that in the description. He also has a lot of other stuff like the 1979 war with China and Vietnam. This is not a plug, not a collaboration. I just learned a lot from him, so he's literally boots on the ground. If he wanted to go to Macau, he could right now. So with that being said, I think I will leave it here today with you, and I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, so hopefully the handsy thing is gonna help, because it does give you a sense of, yeah, let's get engaged, let's actually do something, you know. I could be autistic or something too, so I need that extra boost, but the hands does help, because even, well, I don't want to say I'm autistic, I'm not going to self-diagnose myself, but I think the reason why it helps is because if you're still and doing nothing, you kind of get bored, and then it's like, and then on the 14th, I get, like, you're trying too hard. It's kind of like a loosen up thing, you know, like loosen up, move your hands, you know, like just feel it flow through you. So hopefully that worked. I did my pinch one and was pinching every word, so that's why it was super slow today, but hopefully this one is the start of something. I know Rome wasn't made in a day, but hopefully this could start to move something. What will happen to the playlist is, if this one goes off well, I'll do a couple more new ones, and then from like November, right, because I want to do like 2 Halloween specials from November, which hopefully is my last month, because I even if it's not what I want, I'll take it. Listen, kids, you should never really settle for less, but if you have an opportunity to be close enough, if you could get close enough to the sun, take it. You might not be the star, but if you could get close enough to the sun, make it. But anyway, with that beautiful, cringy speech, I'll leave it here for now. I hope you enjoyed something, hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. This has been me, learning something. Ladies, gentlemen, NB. Till next time.